are going to kick this off with speaking to someone who actually is really familiar with the concept of insight fatigue. Ben, you are, in my opinion, you're a true data analytics expert. You worked for Lego and Asus in the past, and now you're since 6 years with Burberry. Little highlight of last year basically been the Data IQ Awards that you and your team won. And I would like to kick this off with the first question to you, given that you and your teams at Burberry handle vast amounts of data. How do you balance providing comprehensive insights without overwhelming your teams?
Great, thank you. So first of all, it's not always necessarily a bad problem to have. Obviously, it is an issue, but the cause here is that we have a ton of insight. So that can never really be a terrible place. It's just something you have to be conscious of. The way that we approached it is very much taking a bit of a thematic approach. So if we take customer as an example, customer is something that you will never stop creating insight around. It is always going to be there, it's always going to be present, it's always going to be important and relevant. It also means that you're always going to have a lot of history. You're going to know a lot of things around your customer, most of which are probably still relevant even to today, even if the analysis was done 6, 12, 2 years ago. So the idea here is to focus on one group and start to then subcategorize that. And the approach that we took was to try to consider a new senior leader in the business. Someone comes in and says, what do we know about our customer? And we try to reflect to see how would we actually answer that question effectively. And the answer that we had was not particularly overwhelming. We had a lot of information, we had a lot of insight. It was dotted all over the place, it was not particularly well organized, it did not really tell a story. So we came up with the idea of a topic navigator. It's essentially a blueprint for each of these themes that we bundled together. And the idea here would be, you would take 2 or 3 pages. It's an afternoon's work for somebody who knows the content reasonably well. And you're essentially creating then an instruction manual, a guide to say everything that we know around our customer can be broken down into these 6 major key areas. It could be 7, 8, doesn't matter what it is, but you're subcategorizing it and you're guiding the user towards the information that's actually relevant. So by doing this, you're taking 30, 40, 50 plus pieces of insight and then you're collating it together in such a way as you are proactively pushing people towards appropriate answers rather than just that search, which is a bit more of a pull. If you don't know what you're asking, of course, it's not necessarily going to be as effective. We try to then take that a little bit further and try to empathize with our wider audience. So it's not just about that kind of senior leader group here. And actually, we distilled this down to such a point where we were working on these concepts of 5-minute insights, is how we described them. So anything that we may know about customers who buy a trench coat, for example, we would take 5, 10 different decks, we would take that over a 2-year span, we would even include external market insight and put that into a 1-pager with absolutely distilled learnings specifically about that aspect. So we're taking the data that we already have, we're taking the insight that we've already learned, and we're then trying to reuse that and rehash that as another additional insight asset. So the benefit over time, of course, is that you've got these pieces ready to go. So when you're talking about having the right information, you're also then able to pair that with kind of right place, right time, because it's very, very present, it's very accessible, and it allowed us to really make the most of the library of insight that we had when we started to kind of get into the nitty-gritty.
Thank you. And besides the volume of data and insights easily being quite overwhelming, I actually want to take some time and hear a few more thoughts about common obstacles that we see. Sarah, the right Sarah, you're leading more than 30 market researchers, delivering over 100 projects, qual, such as quant, having more than 20 trackers in place. I would love to get your take here first. What are common obstacles in ensuring that insights are actionable and lead to effective decision making?
Thank you. So I've been at Sky for 15 years and I've always worked in the insight and research function. I'm really fortunate Sky is a really customer-led business, so we don't have to convince the business that they need to do research. The context to this is I got an email on Friday from our Chief Consumer Officer who validated the fact that I'd given her something on a completely different question, and she said, "Thank you for this. You're really driving us forward. Your team are right there, and I'm really grateful." Now, that for me, great, mid-year PDP coming up, good. Doing the right job, I might stick around for another year through another reorganisation. But when you've got the CEO, the chief operating officer, the chief consumer officer, and I got an email today saying that our chief people officer was replaying back some of the insight that I presented to the exec 2 weeks ago, you know that we're influencing the decisions. Now, that doesn't come from having brilliant insight and brilliant research. Similar themes that have come up today, I think Fleming mentioned it, spending time understanding the business, using the theory of all of the stuff we've talked about today. We're at a marketing festival. Think about how we market ourselves internally, because are we using those principles? We understand consumers better than anyone, but that is absolutely no good in landing our message if we don't understand the people who are our customer. So the barriers are we timely? Are we talking about the right things in the right format? I think your 5-minute insight, but it's got to be relevant and credible. They're not just time poor, but they're overwhelmed. And actually the storytelling aspect of it, so that it links in with the narrative. And then you're the right-hand trusted advisor because you built that relationship. You do the insight and the research on who the business are and what they need from us, so that you're not left out of the room because 80% good enough. I loved that. I've worked in research for 20 years. Search in research. Use what you know. That will get you a certain amount of credibility so that they will take on board a certain amount and buy you time to go away and get the thorough answer.
Thank you. And Christine, I would actually love to hear your perspective here as well. You have been with McDonald's recently for 10 years. You've been at Unilever. You've been at Bacardi before. So you had all of these global and international roles at big multinationals. So I would love to hear your perspective on common obstacles.
Absolutely. And thanks for asking the question, actually, because I think when we speak about obstacles, first we think about like pain point for the customer journey. And as far as we start to identify the obstacle, we can start working against it. So I'm thinking about 3 things, actually, and some of the things that you've said. But first of all, I think when there's no alignment with the company goals, I think this is an obstacle. And it seems the elephant in the room, we have talked a lot about it, this morning and this afternoon, but it's probably the first thing, make sure that all what we do is anchored in business objectives. So I think our role is really about how we can manage the conversation and foresee the conversation. And I like to speak about like the why conversation, when someone is asking you, something, why are you doing it? What is the outcome you are expecting? What are you doing to do with it? So I think it really helps to go to the business question. And I would say on top of that, everything that we do we should use probably the company goals as a filter to prioritize our initiative. And even more, as Aileen was talking, if it's better to sit at the table and even to align our 1-year plan, 3 years plan to the company goal. And it's where we will, I think, be really there, and it's one obstacle less. So the second thing I'm thinking, it's when there's no collaboration soon enough with key stakeholders. And having worked a lot in decentralized organization, as you said, McDonald's, very big one, franchisee business, so very decentralized. So I strongly believe that the success of what we were doing were really working when we were aligning soon enough with key stakeholder. And if I'm thinking about when we launched, for instance, Travito within the company, it was a line on, it's going to help us with consumer centricity, democratizing, and we launched it as a brand, defining who is the decision owner, who needs to be consulted, who needs to be informed. And then, working like that, it helps you, I think, foster trust. So not only alignment, but foster trust, and also create your network within the company. And so that's the second. And the third, I think, obstacle in where there is no transformation of data into insight and into strategy and tactics. And it's where also we have a role to play. You've talked about that, how we can, communicate more easily the key messages to the key audience, so with targeted communication depending on the audience, for them to assimilate, and also how can we help the transformation of the insight to, whatever it's brand positioning, communication, or product. So I believe if we align, on the business objective, and if we have the right people around the table, and we manage to transform, it could help.
Really interesting to hear, like, all the obstacles that you guys identified. I would love to speak a bit about opportunities now, and now I'm dropping the word AI. So Ben, I'm going to pass it back to you for a second, because I know that you and your teams at Burberry are utilizing AI quite much to streamline data analysis. So what opportunities do you see for AI to further enhance decision-making processes?
So, first of all, I very much agree with the chap from Mars earlier. AI is not going to replace our jobs. No. I see it as intelligent automation, if you like. So many, many years ago, we learned how to automate a dashboard. Well done. Somebody doesn't have to press the button in the morning and everyone gets their report. Fast forward to now, and the way that I see AI really helping is being able to do a more intelligent version of essentially the same kind of a thing. So if you imagine everyone in your organization is able to ask a reasonably intelligent question and not just get some numbers, but get a reasonably informed answer based on your own insight and data, that is going to help grow that base. And then you've essentially got that pyramid where the base becomes more informed, becomes better aware of what the business is doing, what the consumers are doing, and therefore that pyramid will grow and the top will get higher. So that's really where I see AI becoming the most use over the next few years.
Thank you. And I would actually like to hear your perspective here, Paul. You have been with Kellanova for almost 20 years now. You've been recently promoted to CMO of Europe for Kellanova. Congratulations again. In that new role, you now have the opportunity to transform Kellanova's marketing. So what opportunities do you see for AI to further enhance decision making?
Yeah, I mean, just building on what Ben was saying, I mean, AI, I think, I'm a bit amazed, to be honest, about the practical applications of AI just on a day-to-day basis. I think within Insight, it's really helping us listen more and listen better, right? So we're using large language models specifically for a couple of use cases. I think in one of the previous sessions, the team were talking about consumer affairs data, all the things that people write and tell us about, huge text data set, and equally social as well. So we're using large language models to help us really listen to consumers better by interpreting that text-based data. So that's a big application. The other is in an FMCG context, how do we connect different data sets, right? So, all of our customers report our sales data in different ways, using slightly different product descriptions. Again, using large language models, we can make sense of those different data sets. So, that's a specific example for us at Kellanova. But as I said, I've been amazed how quickly we're finding practical applications and using AI to solve business problems.
Thank you. We have 2 questions left. I'm actually quite happy about the timing. You're doing great, guys. So let's move on. Sarah, we haven't heard the other Sarah. We have 2 Sarahs here. The other Sarah. We haven't heard from you, so I would like to drop the next question on your plate. You have a quite impressive background in broadcast organization. You've been with Sky, you've been with Virgin Media, and currently working at Channel 4. We know, most of us probably know, that broadcast organizations come with quite complex team settings. And I know that you're really passionate about driving cultural change and breaking up those silos. And you really help your business to understand how to use insights, but ultimately how to make better decisions and to enhance relationships. So I would love to hear from you. How can organizations leverage insights to identify and capitalize on market opportunities more effectively? And maybe you even have an example that you can share here.
Yeah. I think the big thing we've all agreed is there's no shortage of insights, there's no shortage of data points. It's really hard to get businesses to act on them. And certainly it's been my experience, there's two really big things that stand in our way. And Christine and Sarah have touched on those quite nicely. The first thing is we get to know our customer, but we don't get to know our business well enough. And they are our customers, so you need to do your homework. If you see something that you need the business to do differently, you need to understand who makes the decisions, you need to understand what gets them up in the morning, you need to understand how they feel they're measured, so that they can see you as someone who's going to make them look good. Because at the end of the day, we're there to help the business make smarter decisions and to help people feel more confident in those decisions, and frankly, make them look like superstars. If we were in it for the glory, we'd be down in one of those tents down there. We're here because we want to drive the business towards something. So we have to do our homework. We have to know who we're talking to and how we help them, and that's pre-work. The other thing is big companies love their silos. So very often they're working against each other. So this is where you can help. And again, this is why I'm not afraid of AI, because AI is not going to help break cultural silos. AI is not going to get my chief content officer and my chief revenue officer sitting together teaching each other how one feeds the other. Whether or not my CEO should, I don't know. But I seem to be doing that, and they're not threatened by me doing that. And so my value continues to stay around. It's interesting as well when you work in a more creative industry. You'll have people who have been feeling very passionate about what they produce for a really long time. I'm not going to name one particular company. I've gone through this experience a couple of times, but we very often will have something a creation we have made, a product or a show or whatever, where we feel we are tailored to a certain market, usually younger. One particular company I joined because they couldn't quite understand why they weren't tapping into the market anymore and why their competitors were beating them. So I got on board, got to know everyone, got to know the exec, and it became very clear very quickly that the exec, although young for an exec, they were still middle-aged people. But they'd been working for the company for 20 years, and they still thought they were the target audience. And trying to gently tell someone that you aren't anymore is not, I'm sure, something any of us look forward to, and it can be career limiting. So I had to go on quite a journey, but this is again where Insight is so great. I mean, being a perky Canadian, I'm terribly persistent and resilient anyway, but I brought data to them. I brought the customer to them. I brought interviews. I brought them to their houses. I got them to slowly come up with the idea that they actually weren't the target market anymore. And by trying to sell to themselves, that is why they'd let the competition get the upper hand. But they came up with that idea on their own. But they just found me their muse. I just inspired them. I don't know how that happened. But I think it's important. I think that's really the value that we bring. Our job is not spreadsheets and AI and tools and PowerPoint decks. Our job is to raise the corporate intelligence of the business.
And I love that you just spoke about your value. So I'm actually going to pick that up. Some may argue that insights departments are becoming obsolete as more teams gain direct access to data and analytical tools. So I would love to hear from you, Paul. How do you respond to that? What can insights teams do to stay relevant?
Yeah, I mean, I think that democratization of data and knowledge is a massive superpowers, I think, an insights team. Like, if I reflect on the work that my insights group do, you've got these incredibly smart people spending too much time doing quite transactional work to support brand teams, helping them find things, sharing insight with them. If we can democratize the access to some of that data and knowledge, it will allow those insights professionals to use those big brains to do what insights people do brilliant, which is to connect the dots between different data sources, to help explain to organizations why consumers behave the way they do, and to help signpost business problems, and to spend much less time doing the transactional stuff that takes up, I think, too much of their time today.
Thank you. And I saw the eyes from Christine back there because I know that she's really passionate about this theme as well. So I want to give you the chance to share your perspective as well.
Yeah, Thank you. So I agree with you, Paul. I think it's going to help us a lot with the productivity, actually, and probably some transactional tasks and things that we were doing and not very valuable before. But I think we just need to think that, analytic tools are just tools, and it's still a mean to an end. So I quite think the opposite, actually, that insights are more needed than ever in company because, as it was said this morning, also it's all about people. So I think we can bring discipline, and I'm going to be quick. Promise. We can bring discipline. I think aligning on common language, as some of you said this morning, between IT and analytic, insight. If we all speak the same language, it's going to be better to understand each other. The second thing is I think we can still humanize data, and in two ways, bringing the why behind the data, and data are not only numbers, can be observation, ethnography, etc., and also having better probably storytelling, also where we put the voice of the consumer inside it. And the last, I think we can still be the connected tissue in the company between the external world and the society, the consumer, and also foster more collaboration internally, because it has been said a few times, but it's all about people, I guess.
Thank you. We're actually really good in time, so I thought I need to shorten down the wrap-up, but I don't have to. So we will get into the privilege of hearing a few words of wisdom from each of you. I would like to know, what is your advice to this room here, to this group of people in this room? Paul, we're just going to do a quick round. I want to start with you first.
Well, it's a room full of extremely smart and capable people, so I'm not sure they need my advice. But, as an insights community, I think being able to use your insight skills and expertise to really help explain the reason people behave the way they do, help the company understand people's behaviour, and really use that as a signpost for growth opportunities for brands. That's really, for me, the role of an insights team, and I think where you can really add value, and you all get more than one seat at the table if you do that well.
Ben?
I think I'm going to pick up on a point that was made earlier, which is about the importance of making sure that the insight teams spend time learning and upskilling with their stakeholder groups. That is fantastically important, not just to build bridges in those relationships, but the effectiveness of an insight team that truly understands the business and the group that they're serving is just invaluable. It's something that I don't think gets done enough. I think it's something that I can probably put my hand up and say I'm guilty of not really leaning into, and instead getting a bit frustrated where our perspective, a more data-led view is perhaps not shared. But I think it's absolutely the most important thing to focus on, for sure.
Thank you. Sarah?
I think I'd encourage us all just to take a look at the street and be inspired by our marketing colleagues around us. People who are drawn to insight by nature, we're not terribly good self-promoters. We are not good at cheerleading ourselves. So we are leaders now. We need to start taking on that dirty job and doing that a bit. And networking better. Like, you don't have to do such a dirty job if you can bring your friend from Sky along to say, look, Sky says it too. It doesn't have to be an ugly, dirty job, but it's hard. By nature, people drawn to insight are not normally like that. I am actually an introvert. Nobody seems to believe me, but I am. But it's so important to me to do a good job and to inspire the people that work for me that I'm doing the extroverted thing.
Everyone's saying similar themes, and we've heard them a lot today. And I think the other thing is to have a bit of bravery and be courageous, that sometimes take permission that you know what the business need to know quite often. What are they not hearing? Repeat the same themes. Brands can be expensive. They cannot fix certain problems because the product, people like it a particular way. Well, it's never going to grow if you don't fix it, because that's the one thing people really want. Sky, don't lose recordings. Our customers love that. So how do we position in a way? But keep doing that research and developing the insight that matters, but think about how you communicate it. I love your idea of being the muse. It's this thing that it's fine. If other people think they've come up with the answer, as long as we get credit for it somewhere, that we've done the basics brilliantly, as long as we are doing the PR and we are constantly salient, that brand availability, that the insight team are there as not a cost center, but as a source of inspiration and provocation, that we do that, and we do that through the relationships and the human stories that we can tell and the way that we understand the people that we collaborate with brilliantly.
Thank you. Christine, bring us home.
I would say curiosity. As one of my last boss at McDonald's, Michel Gansley, was saying, curiosity is everything. And I think it's right. I mean, let's stay curious, learn from each other like we are doing in that room, test and learn about failures as well. And as a group, we can progress, up skills, and this is how we will stay also on top of the mind of the company.
Thank you so much. I want to hear a big round of applause for this amazing panel.